Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on Upptalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say Upptalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
I mean, the real-time debugging means you can log the things right, but sometimes what will happen? You will see an error for which you are not able to resolve or see any help right. Other than help center or just googling the things they have provided. If you will click on this help center, and there is the sweet answers. Almost 50 to 80% of your errors, what you are seeing. 50 to 80% of the errors you can find here in sweet answers. You will, whatever error you are seeing, you will just type the error here and you will click on enter of 4. Now let's say, let me type an error. This type of answers they have provided in suit answer. Let's say we are unable to set up date field value here. They will open this and they will sometimes provide the solution in form of gold as well, and sometimes they will provide suggestions. Sometimes it may be because of UI only, the settings wise, and sometimes you just need to just see what solution they have provided right. It is one part of debugging. It is the major part. What happens otherwise? Debugging is the only thing you can do. That is the thing other than that. But how do you debug line? For example, when I run right, I want to look at the variable like how do I do that? I want to run the programmer to see the variable. How do I do that? You want to see what? Can you please come again? A variable value of a variable or something like that. How do I do that? How do I do that? In what will happen if you can understand? Most of the technologies, what happens? You can run the code locally, right? But in nature, you cannot run a code locally. You will have to deploy it over the record only and you have to test it in testing mode only. That is the way only. There is no way you can actually do a debug error like you go step by step. One step, step two is not possible. Possible in the sense it means once you will deploy it, then only step by step you will do the debugging for, let's say, should I? Let me open an sales order only. It has loaded. Let me open the sales order here. We have a requirement like what will happen. You want to know on this sales order record, you want to set the value on this field, right? In this field, you want to set a value, but you have to fetch the value from a customer record, right? I have to get the value from sales, or I mean the customer record. You will check that the value is coming in that variable or not. Then only you can set the value. Like this, there will be complex problems. I mean, you will see the values in one variable. If that is coming, then you can move to the next code. That is the way only. There is no way to debug what is step by step. There is no way. No, I guess I mean the way we do. It is like most of the thing here is that, playing with data, right? Most of the times, we need to set the data and we need to move the data from one end to other end, right? Debug that. What we do, we first check the data is coming properly or not. I mean, the way we want to set it, it is coming in that format or not. That is a debugging here for me. I mean, other than that, if you have any, if you have read any article or something, you can let me know. That's fine. Just because about workflow. What do you have any idea about workflows? I have idea workflow in Salesforce and SAP. Basically, workflow you trigger in trigger with something, right? Let's say I create a sales order. You save, right? You trigger workflow. Or workflow can, let's say, a pour. We can route to. You can send an email to the other person. Then he can actually go look into the system and then a profile sales order, for example, here in that suite. Here in that suite as well. I mean, workflows works the same way only, but what additional what happens here is that most of the customizations, we can do with the workflow. What will happen? Workflow is something like a user event script only. In user event script, if you can remember, we had 3 trigger points, right? One was this before load, right? And one was this before submit, and other was after submit, right? On before load, what happened if we want to, show any button or something? We can set that button in before load and we can show the button, right? And in before load as well, if we want to set any default value or something, we can set where before load and in before submit, we will be setting any value or doing any customization. Just before, committing the data to database and in after submit, after data is committed to database. The after submit triggers. In here workflow as well, there are 3 main trigger points, the same way, right? But what mostly workflows is used for, their use for, approval processes, right? What happens if you want to show a particular button to admin only, right? Those kind of customizations we do with the help of workflow, right? Let me quickly create a workflow here, and additionally, I will tell you how we write a workflow. Action skin. This will be the skin customization workflow. Workflow new. Then you can type any name. Let's say. And same way the CSV, right? We had transactions and something. We will select one record type here. And then the subtype. If transaction is record types, then we can select any sub-record. Let's say in a voice here, you can select any subtype, and we can select multiple as well. And the same way step used to happen in testing mode or in release mode. You can select that as well. And enable logging means something. What will happen whenever a workflow will trigger? It will give the log on the particular record as well. You can enable the logging from here and events here. You can see that. I already told you, if you can recall. There are these types of modi, create, view, or update, right? If you want your workflow to trigger only on create mode, you can click this, and if you want to trigger it in both, you can click here as well, and here is trigger create view before load, or before record submit, and after record submit. These three are the trigger points. The same way in user event step. If you want to trigger it on all, you can select all as well, right? Here are safe search condition as well. If you want your workflow trigger for particular sales orders or particular invoices, you can create a safe search and come attach that safe search here. That workflow will trigger only for the particular invoices, right? Does that make sense? We can work. Here we have state 1 right, and this is the starting point. This is a state, and we can create new states, and in this particular state as well, we can create actions. Let me create new state. Let me create a simple flow. This is the thing. This is one state. This is state 2. And this we call transition, right? And we can put condition in state 1 as well on transition as well, and in state 2 as well. What happens in state 1 if you are in state 1, right? You can create new actions, right? These much of actions you can create here in this record, right? Let's suppose you want to create a button. You want to add a button, right? You need to give the label, and you need to, trigger on one. You want to trigger it, and you need to give the ID of that button. Let's see it. In state 1, you have created only one button, right? And let's say you want to trigger your state 2 once the button is clicked right. You will click on this transition, right? And you want to trigger this state 2 only after the button is created, right? There must be an option to trigger execute on button, right? It will ask you when you want to trigger the state 2. You will click here on workflow button, and you will save it. In state 2 as well, you can perform any action. Let's say on the click of that button, you want to send an email, right? You can select this, send email. And what you can do is that you can provide CCBCC and recipient address, and you can type whole body here, and you can attach any file like that. You can save, and it will send an email after clicking on that button. Let's suppose we have saved this. Let's say invoice now is that showing a button for now. Just taking time to load invoices. Let's open one invoice. You can see that our button is rendering here workflow button, which we created, and as they discussed on this transition, we want to trigger this state 2, and in this state 2 we can perform any actions, right? Like this, you can create multiple sets, and you can do the things. Now the thing is that what is the use of workflow action script, right? What will happen? You can see that we can perform certain actions here. As standard, you can see that this much of actions only we can perform with the help of workflow, right? Which is a limitation, right? There is thing that I want to perform one thing which is not a action in the list of the actions of workflow. In that scenario, we will write a workflow action script, right? Though we can achieve that thing with another script as well, but sometimes what will happen, you're playing maybe a technical person, and they might ask you for, do the things with workflow only. And that scenario, you have to do it with workflow action script, right? There are multiple ways to do the things, but in that scenario, what will happen? You have to create a workflow action script. Now, what happens in workflow action script? Workflow action script will be written the same way, and the script will be right. Let's say user event only, it will be written in a same way. Let's suppose you are in one state, right? And you have added a button and you want to, what say? You want to open a SuiteScript, right? You want to open a SuiteScript after the click of that button, right? What will happen? You will deploy your workflow action script on the record on which your workflow is going to deploy, right? Let's say this workflow we are creating, for which record can you please? In this workflow we have created on invoice record, right? We do it. And that workflow action script we will deploy on invoice, right? If we have deployed that workflow action script on invoice only, that workflow action script will show as an custom action, right? Do you understand? I mean custom action. You can see that. How customer credit is custom. It will show as a custom actions, not for all the records, for the record on which we have deployed that script, right? Does that make sense? what will happen? We will select that action, and the same way we will select an action, and it will be performed the same way, and standard action is performed. And we can debug the things in workflow action script the same way we do in any other script like user event or Suitelet or MapReduce. This is a workflow action script. Let me download it. Here, you can see that the same way in the script we write what is the version and what is the script type. The same way we will do this. And here they are not taking any, what should I say, module. They are just doing things like this only. There is no need here, but we need to define what module. If a particular module is to be taken, we need to take that. But they simply are doing here is that they are on the record which they have deployed it. They will simply get that record in this variable, the new record valuable, and from that new record they are fetching the value of this field, right? This might with the variable name, I assume this is a country, only they are fetching the value of that country and they are simply setting that value in this field. Here, like other script, the same way we provide version and the type of script and the same way we need to define what modules we are going to take here. There is no need to take module, that's why they haven't defined any. What simply they are doing here is that they are taking the new record. This is the record on which the script will be deployed. They will simply get here that record in this variable, and out of this variable they are getting the value of this field, right? This cust entity, customer name at field. They are fetching the value of this field. As this name suggests, this probably is the name of the country, might be. This field is storing the country and they are fetching the value, and here what they simply are doing, they are just setting the value to of that country. But they haven't used value diameter. They need to set the value like this, and whatever value will be coming, they need to like this. This way, a virtual action script will work this way. Sometimes it might be a lengthy script because if you have to deal with, let's say, line level data that way, that will depend on totally on the requirement. This is a simple way to, create a script, and this is the whole idea of workflow and workflow excellent skin. Does that make sense to you? Or you have any questions, you can let me know. This is a new record, right? It will say it's for invoice or whatever, right? You can be used in anything, correct? Right. Anything means the new record simply here on the record which the script is deployed. Oh, of course. In that case, right? Descriptor, this is the ploy. How do you deploy this script to the record? Let's say, for example, in the workflow, I can use different, right? And first step is to do with sales order, right stack and step on. The workflow is, let's just say it's a vertical fulfillment. You go for a few men or full of human, right? It's a different type of record, right? How this action script then is what is depends on where you use it. Isn't it can be used it? How do you deploy and decide whether the script can only be using? Sales order can only be used enough for human. How do you call true wish? One is being deployed. In particular, what happens, you can create a workflow for a particular record. Only that. Workflow. If you want to trigger on sales order, right, you will select the sales order here from transactions. But then my next step in my workflow can be invoice, right? Isn't it? Let's say, for example, after I say my sales record, I want to automate and create a fulfillment. You want to create fulfillment on automatically, right? Right. And then I need to do something on the fulfillment. I say for a number, put some value from the account. You have to deploy that script on sales order, right? And let me tell you why we will do that. Why did you will select sales order here the same way. Let's say you have the things will be, happening the same way. You will come into the first state, right? And you will add that button. And on that click of that button, you want to automatically create the item fulfillment. And as well, you want to do something with the item fulfillment record, right? What will happen? This workflow action script, you have written a workflow action script and you want to add that action on that. Add on that, click on that button, right? What will happen in that script? You can see my screen, right? I see your screen, yes. The code you are seeing. Yes, not the code. I can see the workflow script. What flow script? You are seeing right workflow screen, the workflow, the two boxes. I see the script there. I see the script. Let's suppose you have deployed your is script on sales order record right now. What will happen? Your sales order record has been created. You will deploy that script on after some record, right? This new record will give you whole data on the sales order record because it has been committed to database, right? Now, after that, with your escape, you will use an API which creates the item fulfillment record, which is record that create, right? And you will set all the values which needs to be, set by default on the item fulfillment record, right? What will happen? It will create the item fulfillment record and whatever data from sales order is needed, you can simply fetch from this new record variable, right? That way you can create the item fulfillment, right? And after everything is, you have set everything, you will use the record or save API that save API. What that? Say record or save API does. It gives the internal ID of that particular item fulfillment record, right? Let's say your. Do I need to write the code? Let me write the code for use. Let's simply say here is this, let's assume this is the sales order, right? And now what we can do? We can create an, if you have saved where, right? And what we will do? We will use our API record.create, right? And record test content create does. It's called. We ask for. You can check for the right parameter. I'm just, I think I'm right. I this record dot create AP. I will create this record item fulfillment record, and now you can set whatever the default values you need to set in this record. You need to set else, simply buy without creating. I told you that there is this one another API transform API. You can use the. It will automatically set all the values and it will automatically transform this sales order to this. It will automatically create the item fulfillment with the help of. Let me share. You can see that you can transfer. When we want to directly create something, we need to give the from what type we want to transform. Here they have given example of from sales order. They are creating the invoice, right? The same way we can get the from the we will give sales order, and to type we will give invoice, right? It will create our item fulfillment. It will create our item fulfillment for us, and it will give the internal ID of that newly created item fulfillment, right? If I will log this, I see I can log this. It will give me the internal ID of newly created. I can set further any value and do whatever changes I want to do here. Let's say this is recall. I will copy this, and the same way I can get the value here and I can set the values. It's just that this record needs to be, let's say here, right? That is the thing. Here, what is this? Let's say this in this shape field you want to set something. This will work this way. You will deploy that. That is the whole idea of workflow and workflow action. Can you show me how duty prior workflow action script and attach it to the sales order, for example? Where is that? What you uploaded, right? What is the opposite script? And you need to attach it to a sales order or invoice. Where do you do that? Script. The same way it will happen. I mean to deploy any step. What we do, we go to simply script, scripting, and new write the same way. And we upload that script, and after that it gives us a instant like this. I have two problems are connected on the tab is a type of deployment. No, it is the first. We will create the script record, then after that deployment record. This is where you say sales order. You can deploy it on multiple records as well. I can put it in voice and also can put it as a sales order. Then I can do both. I can say in my workflow, if I had a step where I need to do something on the fulfillment, for example, then and I should just say just get. The new record will be the fulfillment. Is that? I can say I can deploy to sales order, I can deploy to fulfillment, and then I also can deploy together in the invoice. Right, but just to update you here, the example which you provided here, what will happen in your example you show? I mean the here, you should only deploy it to sales order record because in your scenario, what will happen if you are going to deploy this on item fulfillment record? Let me share that code. You can see the VS Code right. I can see the screen, the workflow screen. Now I can see it. In your scenario, what happened? We deployed this script to sales order record. Let's suppose you have deployed the script on both the records on item fulfillment and the sales order, right? For the sales order, it is working fine. You know why it is working fine? Because first you are creating sales order, then from sales order you are getting item fulfillment. But what happens? The script will run the same way for item fulfillment, right? But here, because in from type there is sales order, but your current recorded item fulfillment, the script will not work. Correct? If you have recorded it on a particular topic, of course, if you do deploy only for sales order, right? If I just say I want to put this customer view, say some notes in the inner town and put it in sales order, put it in a fulfillment and put it in your eyes, then it will work. Got it. Does the things return anything to you? The system script can return something back to the workflow. Like for example, if I put this as a sales order, right? And then there's a fulfillment here, right? And then after the critical fulfillment, there's a number of fulfillment number ID, right? Can I take it back, return back to the workflow that the workflow can? Does the workflow itself have a variable is my question. Right, I can. Can I actually return the delivery record at the fulfillment number back to the workflow? Maybe the workflow when you go to the voice. Can you please, come again? I missed some can in a workflow, right? You have action. Right? Should you do something? As I said, the action is to calculate something. They say he calculate two numbers, right? And as a result, right? Can the result go back to the workflow that the workflow can pass this way you to the next stage? Is that possible? You're the same. Let me go to the question. Not in time. I mean, you get good to the workflow, right? The state is there, right? There's an action. Let's say, let me open first. Let's say you are in first state, right? Now, or you execute an action, for example, right? That action does a calculate something. Calculate, let's say it's a sales order, calculate the net value, calculate the tax or whatever. I want to take this value into my state 2. State 2, I don't know what you do. Maybe we create a fulfillment or whatever. I want to take this value and pass it to state 2. Whatever the action inside the state 2, can take this value and do something else. That's an action. To action, I got you. Now I got your question. I mean, there may be a standard way to do this, but I had this kind of requirement and one of my projects. What happened? I achieved this. You know what I did? I was setting something or I was doing something in this state 1. And that same thing was needed in a state suite. What I did, I created a hidden field on that particular record. Oh, you cannot look for yourself. Doesn't have a as a, I mean in SAP, for them a container, right? You can pass things from one step to the container. Oh, no, I don't know. I think it's like a global parameter, like something that's global, right? Between you can share between the two subroutine, kind of like that. Maybe a way, but I achieved this by, using a hidden field. What is the fuse here on the right side? So on the right side, there's a fuse. If you want to create any field, you can do, just create. What is that fuel for? What is that fuel? Can you can flow state. This is a workflow state fuse. You can simply create fields here. But what do they do? What do they use? You can store any values. If you want, if you doesn't want to store any value, you can uncheck this box. These are the same fields, the custom fields. Basically, I can actually put something here. On label, you're saying I can put some. They say a number few here, right? I can put a number few here, and then I can set away with this number few somehow. They can pass with the next stage, next state. That's no problem. We can try this. There's a form, but to me it seems like we can. This is nothing but a custom field only. We can, with the help of this workflow, you can create custom field. If you want further, I can update you on this tomorrow. If you would like. I think you can be used to store something. I think I Let me check on that part. I will update, but to me it seems like that this is nothing but custom fields. Only I can update you on this tomorrow. The idea of workflow and workflow action script is is clear. No, right? That is one thing. From past sessions, if you have anything, you can let me know. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.